Hi, this is Daryl Meyer from Keller, Texas. Today is the first day of June 2010. Today's Tuesday. Alright, let's talk about some of the things going on today. Of course, this Israeli raid, as it's being called, yesterday is pretty much flooding the news channels today. This story out of Yahoo.com says world leaders demand probe into Israel raid. It says global leaders demanded an independent probe today into Israel's deadly commando raid on a Gaza-bound aid flotilla and the release of their seized citizens as tens of thousands protested worldwide. You know, in Turkey, they had about 100,000 people saying Israel will drown in their own blood. Sounded almost too prophetic. Let's see, this says at least 9 pro-Palestinian activists are dead. Nations condemn Israel for what Turkey's prime minister branded a bloody massacre. UN Security Council called for a prompt, impartial, credible, and transparent investigation. The world body and NATO demanded the immediate release of all 6 vessels and the hundreds of Palestinian supporters who were on board. Let's see, it says Britain, France, Russia, and China, 4 of the 5 veto-wielding Security Council members, urged Israel to lift its blockade of the Gaza Strip. Do people understand why they have a blockade on the Gaza Strip? Because ever since the Gaza Strip has been run by Hamas, all they have done from there is launch rockets into Israel. Okay, I think they have, for their own safety and security, a good reason to have this blockade up, to keep things from rockets and munitions from flowing into Gaza, who's clearly going to use their position to go against Israel in the very near future. Just watch, it'll happen. I just find that kind of weird. How about if we ease our restrictions of travel in the United States? Yeah, you know, since 9/11, we've had these horrible conditions at the airports where you basically have to undress. You know, next they're going to be putting on the rubber gloves, and, you know, it's crazy trying to travel around here. Why don't we ease some of our restrictions here if we're demanding Israel to do so? Yeah, because it wouldn't be smart. Well, there you go. Sorry. This is just so much. And you know what? We're going to see a lot more things like this that happen where Israel's defending themselves, but all of a sudden the whole world says, you can't do that. Shakes their finger at Israel. Because we know the whole world, every country, every nation on the earth will go against Israel. It's prophesied in the Bible. Read all throughout Zechariah. It's all over the place in there. Here's another story out of Yahoo.com. Ties with Israel may outlast Turkish anger at raid. This is out of Ankara, Turkey. It says Israel's deadly raid on a Gaza-bound aid ship has ignited unprecedented anger in Turkey and driven the Jewish state's relations with its most important Muslim ally to their lowest point in 6 decades. There are signs, however, that the country's long-term strategic alliance and military ties will endure. Well, why would their military ties endure? Let me tell you. Turkey is waiting for the Israeli drones that they have already bought for $183 million. That should be delivered this summer, and they are using those to check on the Kurds that they're fighting against currently. So, you know, they still get a lot of weapons from Israel, and they depend on those. So they're trying to keep a good relationship while still condemning them for this latest move. You know, people need to understand, Israel told them when this blockade, this flotilla started out, gosh, what was it, a month ago? They said, hey, as soon as they reach our waters, we're going to check them out and see what they're carrying. And they told them. They've told them all along. They got on the radio. They said, you know, you need to stop. We're going to board you and check your cargo. And these people had no plans of letting them stop and look. And as soon as these soldiers boarded, they attacked them. They attacked the Israeli soldiers. So, you know, for them to act in self-defense when people are attacking, I'm sure you've seen the videos by now. These guys are coming from rappelling lines from helicopters, and as soon as one lands, boom, they just start getting beat with pipes and knives and even guns. So there was a lot of weapons found on these so-called weaponless ships. So, you know, it's just another ploy to turn the world against Israel, and we're going to see several more of these before some big stuff happens. In another story out of Yahoo.com, Israel and Egypt eased the Gaza blockade after the deadly raid. So Israel and Egypt signaled a temporary easing of the Gaza Strip blockade today, following harsh international condemnation of the raid. Israel said it was freely opening its border with Gaza for the first time in more than a year, setting off a mad rush to the crossing by thousands of residents, while an Israeli official said there is ongoing dialogue with the international community on how to expand the amount of goods entering the area. At the same time, Israel began expelling some of the nearly 700 activists it rounded up in the naval raid and strongly rejected criticism of its heavy-handed tactics. The government said late Tuesday it would deport almost all of them within the next 2 days, but about 50 would be held for investigation into their part in the violence on the sea. You know what? I guarantee you, if 7 or 8 ships came to the United States from North Korea saying, "Oh, this is all for aid for our Korean brothers and sisters that need help in America," guarantee you the United States would stop those boats as soon as they came even near the United States. So it bugs me so much to see how much hatred is aimed at Israel for just protecting themselves. You know, when everyone says they want to wipe them off the face of the earth, especially Ahmadinejad, they need to take every security step possible to protect themselves. Speaking of Ahmadinejad, he says that Israel is planning a massive attack on Gaza. Today he said this. He says he has precise information that Israel plans to launch a massive attack on Gaza in the wake of its deadly raid. And let's see. And he says it's to make up for their past defeats. I'm sorry, can you explain when Israel has been defeated to me? Because in my recent memory, I can't think of any. Not since they've become a nation in 1948. They've had several wars and they won them all. So what this guy's talking about, I have no idea. But you know what? He has no clue either. I can assure you that. He says, and if you commit a crime against this Gaza, then a regional nation's fury will uproot you, says Ahmadinejad. He's so full of hot air. He's a big talker for a little man. Sorry, I'm trying not to be judgmental. Okay, here's a story. Sounds a little strange. Out of Breitbart.com. Syria conducted nuclear experiments. Syria has told the UN atomic watchdog about past nuclear experiments, but is still refusing to cooperate over allegations that it was building a secret nuclear reactor with North Korea's help, a new report revealed today. The IAEA says that there has been unreported uranium conversion and irradiation activities at a small research reactor. Where? In Damascus. I always perk up when I see Damascus in the news. Have you noticed how much they've been in the news lately? A lot of talk about Damascus, and I know I don't have to remind you about Isaiah 17:1 that says Damascus will be a heap of ruins and no longer exist as a city. You're probably going to see that very soon. IAEA also says Iran has over 2 tons of enriched uranium, enough for 2 atomic bombs. Of course, Ahmadinejad says it's for peaceful purposes only. Okay, I want to read to you out of 2 Peter 1:16. This was Paul saying that we're not making up clever stories when we told you about the power of the Lord Jesus Christ and His coming again. We have seen His majestic splendor with our own eyes. On June 7th, 1967, a patriotic Israeli, the army of Israel, captured the old city of Jerusalem. The previous month, the Egyptians had decided to attempt once more to conquer Israel. Israel felt its only hope was to launch a preemptive strike, which it did on June 5th. 2 days later, the Israelis captured the old city of Jerusalem, which had been part of Jordan. As a result of this military victory in what is now known as the Six-Day War, Israel once again possessed her ancient capital. I always find that intriguing, a 6-day war. You know, God created the heavens and the earth and the whole universe in 6 days, and on the 7th day He rested. And here's Israel fighting for their promised land, and they possessed it back in 6 days. It says, from the beginning of Jesus' ministry, He warned the Jews of God's coming wrath unless they repented. You can read that in Matthew 3:8. The Roman army under General Titus completely destroyed the city and temple in AD 70. Jesus prophesied that. He said, I tell you the truth, not one stone will remain on another here. And in AD 70, his prophecy came true. Jesus also prophesied that following its defeat, Jerusalem will be trampled down by the Gentiles until the age of the Gentiles comes to an end in Luke 21:24. Now, does this mean that the age of the Gentiles came to an end on June 7th, 1967? Revelation 11:2 says no, because it states that the Gentiles will trample the holy city for 42 months, apparently the 3.5-year period prior to the second coming of Christ, implying that the Jews will not be in control of Jerusalem at this time. So June 7, 1967 was an extremely significant event in Jewish history, but it was not the fulfillment of prophecy. I guarantee you every prophecy in the Bible will come true. God bless you. Good Lord willing, I hope to see you tomorrow.